Highmark Stadium has been the home of the Buffalo Bills for more than 50 years. It holds so many memories for so many Bills fans. Whether that's their first Bills game, a playoff game, everyone has that game that they will always remember. This game was one I'll be sure to remember, as it was the last time I'll ever see the Bills play in Highmark Stadium, or as I grew up with it, Ralph Wilson Stadium. I journeyed to Orchard Park to see the Buffalo Bills take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and to see one final home game at the Buffalo Bills Stadium. Welcome to my last Bills game at Highmark Stadium. Going into the season, I, along with every Bills fan, knew that this last one would be the last season of the old place. Whether you call it Highmark, Ralph Wilson Stadium, Rich Stadium, or whatever, there's no doubt it has cemented its place in Buffalo Bills history. But for the rest of the video, I'm just going to keep it simple and call it Highmark, just because that is the official current name. I myself am not a season ticket holder. I usually go to around one Bills game a year. I got my tickets for this game from a family member who is a season ticket holder. Their seats are up in the 300 level, which isn't too expensive once you consider the price for all the other seats in the stadium. I normally end up going to one of the later games in the season because the prices tend to be cheaper as the weather gets colder. My first time at the stadium ever was for an open practice in 2010, followed by my first preseason game later that year against the Cincinnati Bengals. I made it to my first regular season game during the 2016 season, a win over the Jacksonville Jaguars. My one and only time seeing a concert at Highmark was Billy Joel in August of 2021. The 2024 playoffs marked my first time seeing a Bills playoff game when they beat the Denver Broncos in the wild card round. I was so glad I got to see a Bills playoff game, and going with my dad and seeing a Bills playoff win was really special. In the spring of 2025, I was able to take a tour of Highmark, which was certainly a highlight of my Bills fandom. And it was really exciting to see the behind the scenes of what it looks like. We got to see the press box, luxury areas, the broadcast booth, and even go into both locker rooms and eventually end the tour on the field. The stadium definitely has a ton of memories for me. I'm going to be sad to see it go. In total, I've been to over a dozen games in a span of about 15 years, which I realize is nowhere near season ticket holders who have been going to every game for decades through snowstorms, the drought, and everything in between. Bills diehards are another breed. With that, let's head to Bills game day against Tampa Bay. Sunday morning, November 16th, 2025. The Bills came into the game at 6-3, coming off a really disappointing loss in Miami to the Dolphins. The Bucs also came into the game at 6-3, following a loss against the New England Patriots the week prior. The game also featured two of the best quarterbacks from the 2018 draft class, with Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen. It is a blustery and cloudy day in the south towns of Buffalo. Here's a look at the flagpoles at the top of the stadium, so we get an idea of the wind. We'll get up to my seats for the game in just a bit. Being that this would be my last game at the stadium, I didn't spend as much time tailgating as normal. I wanted to soak in as much time at the stadium as I could. So let's head up to the stadium. The walk to the stadium takes around 20 minutes or so, give or take, walking up Southwestern and then taking a turn along the pedestrian walkway towards the stadium. On the walk over, you get a nice look at the new stadium across the street. It is crazy to think that the new stadium is almost finished. I feel like they've been talking about building a new stadium for so long. In the 2026 season, after around 5 years of negotiations, planning, funding, and construction, and around $2 billion later, the new stadium will finally be finished. Walking up to the stadium, it didn't hit me yet that this would be my last time and my last game at the stadium. I got inside the stadium at about 11:30, around an hour and a half before the 1 p.m. kickoff. I saw a few Buccaneers fans walking around, but there wasn't a ton for this game. If you know your way around the stadium at all, you know you have to go up these iconic ramps to get to the 300 level. Okay, iconic might be a strong word, but any trip to the 300s at Highmark Stadium, you'll need to get your steps in. Once I got to the top of the ramp, I stopped to have a panoramic look around. It is a great spot because you can see the field house, the concourse below, and the new stadium across the street. At every arena or stadium I go to, I try to find a souvenir popcorn, both to collect and cause I love popcorn. The Bills souvenir popcorn this season is pretty unique, as it honors the final season of Highmark Stadium in the design. A nice touch by the Bills. To go with it, I also got a pulled chicken sandwich, which was pretty solid, despite the hefty price tag of around $15. Walking around on the concourse on the 300 level, you can see the age of the stadium. The concrete is showing signs of age, and things like that. The concourse is also pretty narrow compared to other, newer stadiums. However, they have done a nice job keeping the signage up to date, concessions, guest services, things of that nature. The insides of the luxury areas have also been kept up really nice, along with the press box and broadcast booths. I'm sure they don't compare to the newer stadiums, but for a place that is 50 years old like Highmark, they look pretty nice. My seats for this game were all the way up at the top row of section 336, at the highest row in the stadium. Any higher, and you run out of seats. Anyone who sits up high in the 300s knows you'll need your walking shoes to get up here. I know the nosebleeds of any stadium get a bad rap and are the butt of jokes sometimes, but you do get some really great views. You get to see the whole field and plays develop, and can see both sideline to sideline and end to end. The only thing you don't get a clear view of is field goals and extra points. If you've been up to the top rows of Highmark, you know they have these small bathrooms, which are really convenient so you don't have to walk all the way down to the concourse, which is almost 40 rows. I was planning to see if the infamous trough in the men's room was still there, but it wasn't there anymore. I think it's safe to say they won't be making an appearance at the new Bills Stadium. I don't know if I'll make it to the new stadium the first season it opens, with the increase in ticket prices that is sure to come, so it might have to wait a year or two. It'll also be strange to be in a smaller stadium, as the current Highmark holds around 70,000 fans, where the new one will have about 5 to 10,000 less. We'll know for sure when the stadium opens and starts hosting games. I hope the new stadium brings out a similar environment that this place does. It'll be interesting to see what traditions carry over. Will the shout song still play there? The train horn? The stampede even? Who knows? We'll have to just wait and see. To mark the last year of the stadium, the Bills wore one of their throwback jerseys, the all-white jerseys from their AFL days, with the standing buffalo on the helmet. I like when they break out the old jerseys. The standing buffalo logo looks really sleek with its simplicity. Sometimes you just can't beat the old stuff. One of my favorite moments is always when the team comes out of the locker room and the players get announced. This week they announced the starting offense and got to hear the roar of the crowd for each player, with one player specifically getting the loudest cheers.
Quarterback, number 17, the fighting MVP.
With the players on the field, it is time for the national anthem, and then after that, one more Bills Stadium tradition, and then it'll be time to play some football. That tradition is the where else would you rather be chant sort of thing that a legend of the game always does. The phrase comes from Marv Levy during his coaching days. If you're a Bills fan, you know what I'm talking about. For this game, it was former Bills linebacker Jim Haslett, who spent 7 seasons with the team from 1979 to 1985.
Let's go, Buffalo! Let's go, Buffalo! Where else would you rather be? Go Bills!
The Bills won the coin toss and elected to defer, so the Bucs got the ball first, and the Bills will get it first in the second half. I'm a believer in taking the ball in the second half instead of the first half if you win the toss. It was a slow first quarter, but after the end of it, the Bills held a 7-3 lead thanks to a Josh Allen rushing touchdown on the Bills' version of the tush push. And of course, with every Bills touchdown comes the Bills shout song to celebrate. Also, a quick shout out to this guy with the bubble machine in my section. The guy was bringing the vibes after every Bills touchdown. Shout out to you, bubble machine guy. The Bills held a narrow lead of 21-20 going into halftime as both teams exploded for multiple touchdowns in the second quarter. At the end of the third quarter, the game remained close as the Bills were just 15 minutes away from victory, leading 31-16 as we entered the final quarter of the game. Tampa Bay briefly retook the lead early in the fourth quarter thanks to a Baker Mayfield touchdown, but that was all the points they would get on the day. 2 more Josh Allen rushing touchdowns put the Bills on top for good as they would win it 44-32. Josh Allen had a phenomenal game with 6 total touchdowns, 3 through the air and 3 on the ground. The Bills forced 2 turnovers on defense, and special teams set the Bills up with great field position with outstanding kick returns all game. With that Bills win, I got to hear the shout song one last time.
Come on and shout.
After that, it was time to go home, unfortunately. And for anyone that has seats up in the 300 level, you know it can take a few minutes to walk down the steps and get back down to the concourse. With that, my final Bills game at Highmark Stadium is over. Leaving the stadium for the last time, I got to look across the street to the new stadium. The construction is getting closer to being finished every day, and when it is done, it will mark the end for the current Highmark Stadium. For 1 p.m. games, I always like to try and be back to my car before sunset and before it gets dark, and I was able to just make it for this game. Thanks for coming along on this journey to my last Buffalo Bills game ever at Highmark Stadium, or as I grew up with it, the Ralph. It was absolutely great to be back and see one last Bills win before they move out of the stadium, before the place gets torn down for good, and it becomes just a memory. From practices to preseason games, concerts, regular season games, and the playoffs, this marked the end of an era. I'm so grateful for all the wonderful memories I've had at this place over the years. They are truly special, and I will never forget them. So thank you all for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this video and want to see more sports content like this. Remember to like and leave a comment down below. Let me know what your favorite memory is at Highmark Stadium, or the Ralph, or Rich Stadium, whatever you call the home of the Buffalo Bills. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.